So yes, mysterious title. Thank you for being here. And what I will, try to talk about what is the root of software development. And a little bit about me. I have a DDD background. I started as a developer. I started coding. Now it's almost embarrassing. I started coding 35 years ago. I started when I was 12, and so you do the math. And I started as a developer, then I moved into agile coaching, facilitation of large-scale events. That's the thing that made me relatively famous in the software development world. I started this adventure with event storming 3 years ago, and it's fun. And I'm also working with Lean and as a consultant for many companies, try to optimize their processes. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I started my own company, and I'm eating my own dog food and everything else. So a lot of the things that I'm saying is just a mixture of this perspective, and yes, that's more or less what I do. And a little boring recap from the past ages. There was this thing called waterfall, and yes, if you look at the books, Royce actually didn't mean the real waterfall. It was something more sophisticated, but the real story, just like nobody used waterfall anymore, so that's the end of the recap. But why do I need the waterfall? It just actually serves me like a tool to understand how humans behave in a place like this. So, does anybody know about this book, Drive, from Daniel Pink? Actually, if good stuff. If maybe don't even need to read the whole book, I strongly recommend this video. I mean, the book is great, but you get probably even more punch-in-the-face type of content from this 15 minutes animated video. But basically, the whole thing that Daniel Pink is saying, like, what is the driver behind our motivation? What is the reason we are doing things? Is actually a combination of these three things. Like autonomy, we need to be able to do things by ourselves without the need of being held by somebody. Oh, could you please put the semicolon at the end of this line? That's not how we work. And mastery, we need to feel that we are good at what we're doing. Oh, finally, that's a well-indented piece of code. Well, we need something like that. And of course, purpose. We need to feel like, well, what we are doing is just meaningful for somebody else. We want to have somebody at the end of the chain being happy of our software. So basically, this shrinks to this thing. Like, people do not get into software development because they don't have any other option. This profession is actually a privilege. You just start being a software developer because you want to become a software developer, and then you want to feel like you're doing a good job. That's like every human is behaving. So my experiment would be to try to see how users behave by putting on these pink goggles and try to see reality with different eyes. The pink check is talking about autonomy now. It's in a waterfall project, we're totally depending on somebody else's specification. So there's not so much autonomy here. What about mastery? At the moment we start a project in waterfall, well, mastery at that time, maybe you are too young for that, but at that time mastery was, yes, designing the architecture that is supposed to rule everything. We have a structure which is layered and well organized, and it's just like, it's just a matter of implementing the specific use case, end of the story. And what is the purpose at the early stage of a project? Well, that's actually the feeling. Let's not screw up everything this time. We are starting a large-scale project. Let's just try not to make a mess. After some months, the project is running, and well, situation might be slightly different. I mean, the deadline is getting closer. So talking about autonomy, well, autonomy has a different form of expression. We start to be autonomous by making a guess and cutting corners. Well, the specification is not giving us answer. The person writing the specification is now working for another company. We are left with a piece of paper which is totally meaningless, and there is the deadline pushing. Talking about mastery, well, mastery is not anymore about designing architecture. Now, mastery becomes this one, cowboy coding. While you try to fix, yes, I know that if I can cut and paste in real time from that table, put in this stuff, this is probably working. And by the way, it's Friday. Goodbye. Let's have a beer. And talking about purpose, well, the purpose is getting different too. It's just like, let's finish the project, and then, yes, goodbye. So, thinking about what is a waterfall type of software development optimized for, I mean, everything happens for a reason. It's not because we are evil, we designed something that was an incredibly stupid idea. No, everything happens for a reason. This is just a result of a system where good forces were in practice. So, there is actually one thing that waterfall project were shining for, which is, postponing bad news. So the real strategy for a waterfall software development project was actually the same one of a turkey before Thanksgiving. Every single day before Thanksgiving, the life of a turkey is just fantastic. People are feeding me. And then Thanksgiving Day, it just, you're dead. But every single day, well, was absolutely perfect. The second thing waterfall is optimized for is, finger pointing. Oh, yes, it was a specification that was wrong. Oh, no, it was your implementation. Well, who wrote the test? Well, there's no testers in this company. They left. So, yes, that's more or less, it was not a great place to be, but yes, still is more or less hidden in many places. Let's try to apply the same reasoning to a typical agile project now. What happens in an agile project? I want to put that in just kind of boring now. In Scrum, what happens? You have the team which is delivering quality software in sprints. Well, I'm not totally sure about the quality software, but at least it's sprints. The Scrum Master, which is removing impediments, and the product owner providing a clear vision and priority. Yes. Let's put the goggles on and try to see how this typical agile process work in this real world. Let's make the pink check with the LDL Scrum. And what about autonomy? Well, in Scrum, the idea is to have a cross-functional autonomous team. The idea of autonomy is embedded in Scrum by design. Well, not bad. What about mastery? Well, again, in Scrum by the book, we are supposed to apply the best engineering practices to select the best people and to put them in the condition to do the best job. Well, great stuff. What about the purpose? Well, the purpose maybe is a little bit less strong, but looks like not bad. Just satisfying customers, shipping quality software week after week. Well, compared to the traditional waterfall, it's just, not bad. That is the feeling. I don't know how much of you is just doing real agile or agile in disguise or waterfall dressed like agile or whatever, or Kanban or lean startup, but this is actually not bad from the pink perspective. So the thing for me is just like, what is agile optimized for? And by the book, we might feel like, yes, probably responding to change. It's just like by design, it was just, remember the old cover from the XP book, embrace change, and that's it. But then I've seen quite a lot of agile in practice, and there is something that started to worry me, like, this burn down chart. I guess you're familiar with a graph like this, and then there is something that is, I didn't recall at the very beginning, but then there's something that started to bug me, which is the intrinsic need for yeah, certainty. And the other thing that was bugging me were just like questions that keep recurring, like this one. How many days is a story point? Well, the whole point of the story point is just that I don't tell you how many days. You're going to discover that only at the end. But when I was an agile coach, I would say 90% of the questions were variation over this one. Oh yes, but we need to know how many days is a story point. Oh, so that we can, yeah, make our planning. And then I realized that we have this problem that, like, even in an agile software development scenario, there's still this strong look for predictability, for yes, I need to guarantee deadlines. I need to know exactly where are we going to finish. And it made me feel like, well, have you really realized what agile is all about? So the first notation was, yeah, getting into sabotage. Like, I don't always use story points, but when I do, they're not of the same size. We have the pink story points and the yellow story points. Yellow story points are bigger. They count like more or less 2.5 days. And then we have the red story points. So the story is 3 blue, 2 red, 1 yellow, 1 pink story points. Make your own estimation. No, that clearly is not a successful and constructive strategy, but really was pointing me to the idea like that people were looking for something that was not existing. The thing was, again, we've been trying to optimize the wrong thing. We were looking for predictability, and no, there's something weird. So thinking about where we started, how software development started was more or less, yeah, punch card. Remember where everything was starting. This is just there as a reference, not part of the real punch card. But from that time, when writing a piece of software was involving a lot of complicated, long and messy manual labor, well, now we can create microservices with a single click. Go serverless, go on the cloud. All of this stuff is happening very, very quickly. Code generation, creation of code, the actual writing, the actual typing, coding is not anymore the bottleneck. So the thing that we've been trying to optimize, the problem we're trying to move is just not exactly the same thing. So a few years ago, I started rolling my brain over this idea that was coming from many sources. One of the most famous is actually Dan North, that said like, yes, learning is actually the bottleneck. That was this great article that was called Introducing Deliberate Discovery. Just yesterday, we had a discussion on the same topic. There was one of my friends from Norway that was commenting the fact that Kevin Henny was using something about the learning in his presentation, and Alexei was pointing to my, oh, he's using the same sentence of Dio Brando. And so even Kevin then pointed to his article of 2006 where he was talking about the learning. So, okay, we are not alone. Quite a few people are thinking about, actually, this is not typing, writing code is not the bottleneck anymore. Learning is probably the most important thing. The way I describe it is more or less the same thing with a different phrasing. It's just software development now is a learning process, and working code is a side effect. So the thing is, we spend so much time improving the way we create code, the way we type, the way we create architecture, but actually the real thing which is now the bottleneck is our learning, our capability to understand the real problem, understand what is the thing to be done. I don't know how many of you remember the old presentation from David Hannemeyer Hansson, the first one for Ruby on Rails. He made a fantastic demo about how to make a blog post plus comments in something like 15 minutes. Powerful, beautiful, creating scaffolding, web pages on the fly, done, awesome. Then you start making a calculation. It takes 15 minutes to make a couple of use cases. How many use cases in your software? Well, 25. Well, give you some slack. In a couple of days, I'm expecting to have the running application. Of course not. But what are you doing in the meanwhile? Are you slacking off, going on Facebook? Or you're probably learning, and that's how you spend your time. Try to understand what is the right thing to do. Once you know what is the right thing to do, then doing it is relatively straightforward, and you can optimize the typing. But the really hard thing is try to understand what is the right thing to do. We have a few problems with this approach. Learning is not deliverable. Well, even more if you are working as a contractor. The learning is an asset that is not in the buyer's company, but is actually the asset. I mean, if you consider that working code is just a side effect, this is not visible. This is not really manageable, and even worse, this is fragile. Yes, we don't pay contractors for learning, or our company has so much turnover, so what you get as a result, you have a lot of software written by people that didn't really understand the problem and then left. So you have the code not maintainable, not really reflecting the problem, and what the hell should I do adding this new feature? Well, good luck. And well, that's probably the best summary. But if you are a business person and you're writing, you need some software to support your business, there is one thing that we need to understand, which is developer misunderstanding, not expert knowledge, that gets deployed in production. So if you have somebody's misunderstanding coded into some, Java code, deployed in production, and then goodbye, let's see you next project, as a business owner, you are left with some misunderstood idea. It doesn't matter if the expert know their business, it's how we understand it that goes in production. And I know quite a few companies in Italy which are currently ruled by wrongly implemented software. I mean, the business is different. Their implementation is wrong. Their business is running on the wrong implementation. And they have huge customer cares explaining this to the real user. Oh, there's no better option. So the other thing is actually, especially if you're running your own internal software development shop, learning is an asset. Learning is something that you want to keep inside of the company and not just have people coming and going, try to reinvent or re-understand the problem from a different perspective. So now I'm worried. I think I can see the next slide, but I'm not sure. So if we look at it, yes, now I know what is wrong to this in this burn down chart. I don't see breakthroughs. I don't see the moment where we have yes, now I understand the problem. Now everything is starting to become easy. So let's put it in another way. The need. Now I know what is, I'm feeling like it's wrong with the traditional agile approach. It's just the feeling, the focus on predictability is just preventing breakthroughs to happen. There is no time to have good ideas. We have to follow a plan. And there was something in, it was at the beginning of a book from Mike Cohn. Now I don't remember the title, but it was saying something like, what is a good definition of success for a software development project? Many people would say, like, if you deliver on time and on budget, that's a great project, that's good. He was feeling like, no, that's actually terrible. If you deliver on time and on budget and you didn't have any better idea than the original specification, why the hell did you have a team of 6, 7 really smart people in the same room for 6 months? Smart people, 6 months on the same project, not a single better idea. This is a failure. This is not a success. But predictability is just preventing these things to happen. Variation is not always true, and this is what was something that we discussed during the training class. Like, not every single project is 100% learning, but some portion of the problem are. There will be some areas which are being boring and predictable, and it just takes time, maybe doing some cleanup and so on. But sometimes, well, you have a portion of the system which are really, really relevant, and if you try to be predictable in this area, no, you won't deliver anything brilliant. Okay, more specifically, high value, high risk areas, learning pays off. In areas where the stuff is simple, you might just want to deliver something plausible, and that's it. Talking about agile, if there is not so much payoff at the end, you're still using agile, you're still happy about the result, but it's basically tracking in a more flexible way. It's not really great stuff. Still good, still better than the false Gantt diagram on a typical waterfall, but you won't have all the benefit. I mean, this is the area where on time and on budget might still be okay, but there's an area where on time and on budget is not enough. So getting back to this one, if you apply the wrong style to the most important area of software development, you will postpone the breakthroughs. So that's the thing that might happen. Oh, was a great idea, well, really good. But yeah, you know, later we have a plan to follow. So the next time you propose a good idea, an experiment, a variation, why don't we try that instead? No, you stop proposing. End of the story, and you would just follow the plan. End of the magic. So let's try to see what happens in the typical project from this point of view. Like, we still need to feel like we're doing a good job. The thing is, no, there's something that is still not so visible. So what is really our job, programmers? I would say this is more or less our job. It's just like we need to be better at learning. We need to feel that we are doing a good job as learners, or that's what we have. It's just like we are, yeah, making experiments, try to connect things, try to trigger some reaction in the system that we are building. So some of the things that which are happening, given that this is what we are, it's just like learning is going to happen anyway. Let's try to see, I'm sorry, I'm still missing some of the color. Try to see some of the typical anti-patterns with a different perspective. Anti-pattern number one, product owner as domain expert. This is something that we've been discussing during the class a little. This is more or less the context. You're working with a company that is, like every company, is divided in silos. And yes, no, everybody's an expert. They know their own department, the rules very well. They're doing a great job. I mean, it's always everybody else making a mess. Other silos are a real mess, and it's not our problem. End of the story. The knowledge in an enterprise like this usually has this shape. You know, somebody here knows this stuff. Here we have different opinions. You talk with this guy, you get a story. We talk with this guy, you have another story. This might be mysterious. That's an area that nobody knows. That's Bob that maybe left the company, and conflicting things. I mean, you don't trust people in a place like that. And given this is a mess, what is the product owner doing? Product owner starts to feel like, well, this is too messy. You just talk with me. So in his brain, the idea is, I'm going to do all the learning. I'm going to talk with all of these people. I'm going to protect you from the mess of my organization so that you can just focus on the coding. And to make it clear, I mean, I have nothing against this guy. This is just a good guy trying to help. The problem is, this is a damn terrible idea. It's kind of totally wrong. Let's see the feedback. At the feedback loops moment, like sprint planning, sprint retrospective, backlog grooming, you have all these meetings which are embedded into the Scrum loop. Well, you just talk with the product owner. They get a little bit more boring, and you have a conversation with the same person that, well, has some good knowledge, but not exactly all the knowledge. So, product owner as domain expert, well, what is the autonomy? For everything, you need to ask the product owner. And, well, the product owner is not great in autonomy too, because for everything, he needs to talk with the real domain expert. And so you get a second-hand answer, maybe not exactly the time you wanted. Oh, sorry, I actually talked with the head of department, you know, but the requirement, in fact, is slightly different. Well, can you still do it for Friday? Of course. Talking about mastery, well, you don't know, you're not sure you're doing the right thing, and then sometimes you get all the possible spectrum here. You just do what the product owner asks, or maybe you just try to, well, I don't like that, but at least I'm gonna write a lot of very robust code, indented, solid principle test and everything else, because I'm a software craftsman. And talking about the purpose, yeah, we're just trying to make the product owner happy. We don't talk with anybody else in the company. We just talk with the product owner. Let's hope this is a nice person, because that's the only person we can make happy. Of course, we can still make everybody else angry in the company. The moment we make a wrong release, we're going to meet a lot of people, but that's not going to be a party. And just to clarify, product owner was never intended to be the single source of information. It was the person intended to manage priority, choice, and vision, making the product calls not being the single source of information for the whole project knowledge landscape. So, do I have a solution for that? Well, that's exactly my selling point, but that's the only slide talking about it. My solution is just put all the key people in the same room, all the domain experts, have them build together a model of the whole business, and then, yes, you start the conversation with the right people, you try to understand what is going on. But if you want to look about it, it's going to be referenced later. Actually, I'm talking about a different thing. I'm talking about the problem, not exactly the solution. So, one of the most important thing to consider here in the single product owner is actually this thing. A single person knowing everything is a pretty bad risk. Just like, and the situation is actually even worse. You are in a project, a single person knows everything. No, it's not true. Like, a single person pretending to know everything is an even bigger risk. And you are not in the position to tell the difference. You are shielded from the rest of the organization. You're only talking with one person. You have no idea if this person is lying or not. Good luck. Well, you're going to discover at release day. Another anti-pattern, user stories as specification. Maybe somebody's seen something like that. So you probably have seen this type of template for user stories. That's a typical example of a good idea getting abused in the worst possible way. So it was intended as a format to facilitate some conversation, but most of the developers got something like, wow, let's have template, let's just use it to fill the blanks. Oh, it takes a lot less time than filling the use cases as a template. The use case was the whole page. It takes, well, half an hour. With the user story, well, it's 3 lines. I can fill up the specification document in 2 minutes. Wow. Then you get something like this. As a project manager, I want feature 245 so that we can release the project. This is actually coming from a real project. And so in a scenario like this, well, we explore the goal, motivation, and everything. Well, the future conversation in a scenario like this was actually this one. What is the link to the actual specification document? So what is this approach optimized for? Why we ended up in this way? Actually, there's something like, yeah, we just wanted to reduce meeting time. They just do the thing quickly. They just write a couple of things, and then, oh yes, good luck, you developers. You're gonna do a lot of guessing in your work. So I'm sorry, another embarrassing couple of seconds. Yes, let's try. So pink check again. User stories as a specification. Autonomy. Well, you need to ask the product owner anyway, so you have no autonomy. You're just having a good index card with a ambiguous sentence and yes, some topic for a planning poker estimation. Mastery, and this is starting to get weird. Like, is something is not clear what I'm going to be doing, but I have to provide an estimate anyway, and so the risk is all inside my space. No, not really right. What is the purpose? The purpose, it just turns into, I just gotta deliver something for Friday. The smallest thing that fits the ambiguous description in the story, it's good for Friday. Then, of course, in a couple of weeks, we're gonna have variation of these user stories. Anyway, so yes, bad stuff. Or we're gonna have a link to the long specification document, a couple of pages, or on Jira, or maybe even more than a couple of pages. I have another problem with the specification here. Like, I mean, this is kind of easy thing. Specifications are boring. And I was meeting with, I was actually working with a customer, and this customer just told me this: well, before the meeting, I will send you a specification document so that you can, yes, get a grasp of what we're actually doing. And they sent me the link to the document, and they just replied almost immediately like this: well, that document is 200 pages. Don't even think that I will read it. Oh, yes, just, no. I won't read your document. I opened the document, I found something stupid on page 2, and I said, like, that's enough. Sorry. But actually, I made it a point. I don't read specification documents. 200 pages, I don't want to waste my time reading 200 pages specification. So I was actually listening to my conversation like somebody with the brain damage, and I was, why the hell am I saying this thing? And then I realized, am I getting too old? Just like I don't have any focus left to read the 200 pages document. Maybe it's just a matter of will and focus and concentration. Maybe I'm not professional anymore. Then I realized that actually reading a 200 pages document is not a problem for me, because basically in, well, I would say, yeah, something like a week, I was reading the whole stuff, which is, yeah, probably overall something like 5,000 pages. So I'm still able to read long document. And I was actually reading a lot of stuff about the Starks and the Lannisters and all the relationship. For every single book, I was checking the map of the end and the relationship between the family. Then I was learning a lot. But I still won't read your specification document. So the thing is, we gotta consider this. Like, if something is boring and the specification document is boring by definition, there is no hope for us to learn anything from that. So this is just a terrible idea. Somebody's been writing the specification document in order to facilitate our learning, and he's been doing this in the most unknowingly boring way. What a waste of time. So I'm not reading it, and the problem is on the person writing that document is a sunken cost. You wasted 2 months of your life writing a document which is not useless, is actually harmful. We need to do something different than this. I'm sorry, somebody wasted their time. And I remember, I mean, I just don't want to, I mean, this is a good present, so thank you. But one day I was given physically, oh, we have this document, and I was handling it. I don't think I'm gonna read it. Just like a dirty, horrible thing. This is actually beautiful. On the other side, this is a continuous battle, just like learning is the arch enemy of boredom. If the thing is too boring, we still need to be learning something anyway. So what is the solution? One solution might be coming from, yeah, this guy, the author of the Game of Thrones, you just add death, blood, sex, and violence and murder to the specification. So that, I don't think this is going to scale to the enterprise, but it is a solution, at least. What happens in practice, in most of the project, when you have a specification which is too detailed, when the technological landscape is fixed, well, no, you start doing this. You start, if you need to work on some accounting portion of the system, the only way to implement it now is to do it microservices, Node.js, Haskell, whatever fancy, because if the domain is too boring, you need to do something about it. And it happens like everything, if you can't keep everything under control. So, little exercise. How do we learn how to ride a bike? We have many possible strategies. Well, strategy number one, you take a bike and you try to ride it. Maybe you're gonna crash into something, fall, yeah. Second strategy, you find a friend that has a bike. Well, how it is this thing called a bike? How does it work? Yeah, how does it feel? Yeah, I saw you passing. It looks like weird. We get some information that maybe one day you're gonna try it. Oh, if you want to be, more solid, if you're not a risk taker, you just start reading one or maybe more book about bikes. Or you talk to a guy that knows somebody that has a bike and get some second-hand knowledge. Or you can do that, read a specification document written by a person that probably interviewed some bikers, so you have an expert on the field. But the enterprise version is actually this one. Read a specification document written by a guy that talked with the wheels guy, the chassis guy, the pedal guy, and the tires guy, and never actually rode a bike. This is requirement gathering in the enterprise. So, let's rename this pattern and try to understand what actually is happening in practice with the best intention again, which is domain expert as a spoiler. You know, the spoiler, the type of guy that is waiting you when you're entering to a Star Wars movie telling, you know, at the end, Darth Vader is the father of Luke Skywalker. I'm saving your time. Why wasting the time watching them? I'm trying to help you. I'm telling you the information in advance. I'm actually trying to, yes, help you. So I'll write you a document so that you won't waste time learning. That is the approach from the people who already have some expertise in the company, who made the past mistakes. They are trying to save our time by making a summary of all the important things that we have to learn. Unfortunately, the package is just killing the learning. The other thing is just, it's not wasted. It's not just reading one thing immediately makes us expert about that problem. It won't happen like this. Actually, the whole thing about riding a bike involves mistakes, involves, I guess many of you tried at least once, usually only once in your life, to ride the bike like this. You know that? It's an incredibly stupid thing to do, but you have to do it at least once, then you stop doing it. And so actually learning needs this thing. It needs the feedback from doing mistakes. And there's something with the idea of experience, being an expert. If you look at it, you don't have to be a master with Latin and language. There's something like experience, experiments. It's just like you have to try something. You have to make mistakes. You become an expert by making one mistake and knowing that you will never do it again. Of course, you don't make experiments with nuclear power plants and stuff like this. But yes, because if you are in the wrong place, then maybe that you need a safe to fail type of scenario. So don't make experiment in the banking system in production, but you have to know what might happen if you do stuff. And this is another thing that I learned from doing event storming. Just like in every company, the moment, the thing is, if you are in a company, if you are just hired, you have only a limited amount of time to ask stupid questions, to make mistakes, oh, I thought this thing was that instead. No, it's not exactly like that. If you have, in the first 2 or 3 weeks since you've been hired, you are entitled to ask a relatively stupid question. Later, you don't have the opportunity, or you don't feel like you're entitled to ask those questions anymore, so you stop asking questions, because asking stupid questions, making silly mistakes is not a well-supported behavior. And so, but many times we discover that the people that we called the experts were actually not expert at all. They just stopped asking stupid questions, and they have their own version of reality that maybe was not really working. Another relatively infamous anti-pattern is the Dungeon Master. The story of this pattern was actually started from a presentation from Cyril Martrer 1 year ago, and he was just resonating too much with what I had in mind, that I wrote this blog post on Medium, and I ended up with 3 days of roller coaster. Looked like I made half of the world angry at me, and the other half was, oh, this guy is actually telling something. So what is the Dungeon Master? The Dungeon Master is describing the scenario where the product owner of your software is actually the author of the previous version of the software. So what happens? This guy is just actually guiding you to do exactly the same implementation with a different technology. Well, if you have a better idea, it's not going to work, because no, I already thought about this problem. And they have a very hard time thinking about a different type of solution, different type of thinking, or different type of architecture, and so on. But actually, they are creating a very dysfunctional environment. In the worst cases, you can't improve a system that is managed by a Dungeon Master, because you're always going to look stupid. Like every time you are trying to change something, you're always going to do mistakes, and you're going to get something like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that when you do that. Oh, how do I know about it? Oh, it takes experience. Well, it's just like, it's not experience, it's just you're working on unfinished software, and the Dungeon Master is called like this because he's the only person that knows where the traps are. It's just the portion of the software that was not finished, and he knows exactly where are these portions. But yes, he was the only one to leave the traps around. The other bad consequence of this pattern is just like they are normally surrounded by very young developers that stay there only for a limited amount of time, or just decide to, okay, let it go, let's keep the system as it is. We tried to change it, but every time we tried to change something, it was a problem there and there and there, so we couldn't. And anyway, I added this picture of Nero burning Rome and so on, and made everybody angry with me, but then I realized, no, this is actually one of the key problems in many enterprise software, because nobody had a success story working with a Dungeon Master. Then, last summer, I discovered this book, Black Box Thinking, that was actually telling me that this is not a software development problem. There is a common, repeatable anti-pattern at the behavioral level, which is dealing with experts that are kind of proven wrong. Like if you are rewriting the architecture of a critical enterprise software in a different way and the new implementation is superior, that's going to be a problem. Like you are not supposed to beat the old system, because if you do, it will look like the old implementation would be wrong, and that's going to be a mess. Talking about the dungeon master, working in a place where you are rewriting the old system but you cannot improve it, what is your autonomy? Where as long as you're chained, you minion. You can't do that much. What is the mastery? You don't have any mastery. You can't beat the master in the dungeon. I mean, you're just like playing poker with the dealer. No, you don't. You can't. They just know all the possible things. What is the purpose? Purpose is gone. I mean, usually good developers escape these places very quickly, and then somebody else settle down and just you meet them in Friday. Well, you know, I wanted to change that, but then, well, I got some money. That's just kind of close to my house type of work, and it's not. Yeah, purpose is gone. It's just survival. Talking about the learning, you actually don't learn a system. You learn somebody else's perversion that has been, thought many years ago, and they are not supposed to change. Cadence as an anti-pattern. That's kind of weird. We thought like cadence was a good thing. But this is not exactly my daughter, but just like, a good example. Something that happened to me and my family was my kids, well, they started working while on holiday. Yeah, more or less when they were 1 year old, their first steps were during holiday. They also started talking while on holiday, which is a good thing. They started climbing while on holiday in kind of almost professional way. I mean, my daughter is still climbing after all these years, and even started coding while on holiday. I did pair programming with my daughters. So it again doesn't have to be incredibly smart, but there is a pattern here. So one of the solutions might be, yes, let's go coding on the beach. And this is actually real coding. That's a guy behind the balsamic. So not a stupid guy, not a stupid tool, good stuff. Maybe, again, this is not an enterprise scalable type of solution. But the thing is, if every single day in the office is repeatable, maybe there might be something wrong. So an unexpected stimulus is just forcing us to think in a different way. Just like my kids started walking on holiday because, wow, that's an expected place. I will do new things. While being at home every day was just like the previous one. Well, the idea of doing something different was not really an easy one. And that's the thing I wanted to point to. Iteration are repeating in a boring way. It just was something that was actually, while I was doing my Scrum Master training, Craig Larman was telling, like, yes, you start this iteration, demo, retrospective, and then repeat until retirement. I mean, everybody made sense except this repeat until retirement. What the hell? This is not life. And no. And but then you feel like, well, no, actually, Scrum is set up to be repeatable. This is boring, and boring is not working. So idea, maybe take a special day, just go and see what is your user problem in the real world. Go there, visit, talk with them, realize that they are people, talk with the expert, observe them, pretend you're a real customer. Take a look to your competitors, to the other thing, explore, try to understand something. But then when you start proposing this variation, you get some objections like, well, you know, the agenda is already planned. Oh, we have no insurance coverage out of office. You get out, there are meteors waiting for you, just falling from the sky, killing software developers. We are not supposed to cross the road. I mean, we are so weak. We already have a schedule, so there is no time for learning. We just have to deliver something without having any ideas. Ideas are going to be a mess. We're not supposed to talk with users. Sometimes you're even forbidden to talk with users. I know a company that created the contract and prevented the software developers from being in the same room with users. Because being in the same room was a kind of a violation, so weird. Traveling is expensive. Yes, you don't really want to go there, and so on. Something more nastier. I mean, if you take a day off, how can I calculate velocity? How many story points this week? You're taking a day off. Oh, my Excel is broken. And then it's not my responsibility to do it. Just no. I just have to deal with the story point. So the thing is, temptation of predictability is still there. We are trying to follow a plan, an Excel spreadsheet, a linear line. Another one, this is going to be shorter, reinventing the wheel. How many of you have been accused of reinventing the wheel? Raise your hands, please. Let me, okay. Do you feel guilty for that? Well, you should, or maybe you shouldn't. Well, the thing is, reinventing the wheel is actually learning. I felt guilty for many years, then I realized, oh fuck, I need it. I need to reinvent the wheel just to understand how this wheel is working. And what every good developer have is this one, this little pet project. You need it, and in this pet project you actually reinvent a lot of wheels just for your personal pleasure. Who's got a pet project in this room? Meet up, people. Well, imagine this same question asked to a group of accountants. Do you have a pet balance sheet? You go home and you just try to add some. No, we are a different type of people. We are programmers. We are developers. We go hacking. Accountants, no, they don't think in the same way. So this reinventing the wheel is actually necessary. The only thing is just like if you reinvent the wheel and put it in production, that's another thing. So we need the clean separation between time for inventing the wheel, getting some confidence, and then feeling, okay, I can do that, and separate this thing, this pet project, this spike, this exploration, and usually the best thing is just the calendar telling, like, you have only 2 days to reinvent the wheel, and then we get back to normal business. This thing we were mentioning these days with the scuba diver. You can go explore, but if you're not coming on the surface in 20 minutes, well, we are going to pull you up. Maybe alive, maybe dead. So we need this safety net. Another anti-pattern, same office, same desk. Visiting some companies, well, can you help us speed up our software development? I look at the office and I said, like, go in a bigger office. Oh, you haven't really looked at our processes. You are sitting 4 people on the same desk. You have no ability to sit in a different corner of the room. You can only see things from the same perspective every day, and sometimes you can't even move the mouse because there is a keyboard of your colleague just nearby. If you are locked in that scenario, well, you don't have some time option to see things from a different perspective. Even worse, if your HR department or your bosses is calling you resources, well, good luck. They are just counting on the typing, on the delivery. What if you consider learning and you just switch 2 lines, 2 person in the resource matrix? Oh, I have a senior developer here and I have a senior developer here. Let's switch them. Well, it's going to be exactly the same thing. Well, talking about the learning, you have 2 experts, now you have 2 ignorants in the same project. They are still well, senior software developers on the technology, but on the domain, now they're totally rookie. But your Excel is telling me that estimates are not going to be affected. So in general, I could continue for hours, and you have a beer waiting for you sometimes. I could continue for weeks, actually. And so the dirty, ugly summary is most of our working habits are not designed for learning. They are designed with the idea of we are typing, coding, and that's everything we do. We get in the office, we switch on the screen, we open the email reader and the ID, and that's everything that we have to do. Which is a pretty wrong idea. Final one. That's a little bit more London-style startup hype, just developers in a vacuum. And just like you have the developers, you provide them the most important tool if you are in a London startup. The second most important tool is actually the coffee machine, so Nespresso. What else? What else do you need? But then you have this, where is the purpose? You put all the key on the smart people in the room. Let's code, let's just play football in the breaks, and they just use nerves also, but the purpose is gone. You have no real contact with the final users. You don't know exactly what is the purpose of this new cool software you're writing, and you're actually living in a bubble without any human connection with somebody you can actually help. So the thing that we ended up discovering, and even so, this was actually the nice scenario. I've seen another corporate that has a more nasty type of accommodation with 3 layers of software development teams, like developers, and then another layer of developers adding some country customization, and then local customizers, and then only at the end of the chain real users. What the hell am I gonna have somebody telling me thank you for your job? It was a machine designed for failure. I mean, if I do something wrong, everybody is gonna be pointing at me, oh, that was you, your dirty line of code. But if I do anything perfect, nobody will know me. No, I would not work in a place like that. I would need to have somebody. I'm working for solving somebody's problem. I need somebody that feels that they have to tell me thank you. So that is actually the thing. Like, try to find your user. Maybe you can establish a contact. Maybe you're just gonna be satisfied by the fact that somebody is happy, but you got to deserve a thank you somehow. And that's the purpose we need for writing software. So, wrapping things up, learning is crucial. I mean, I'm talking to you in these terms because I assume you're good in writing software, and you don't need, well, you will still need to learn something because it's part of our job, but it's not about the coding skills, the typing skill, and everything else. But the bad thing is just our working environment are not designed for learning, not at all. Learning has not been the primary purpose for architects, for office layout, for planning of the days, and not even for Scrum. If you put these goggles on, what you see is actually this one, impediments all along the way. For a company, it was even more embarrassing, like too much noise, no oxygen, too many people, not a single moment to think about doing something different, only rushing. But if you look at the problem with this idea of looking for opportunities for learning, well, the good news is just there's plenty of these opportunities, and your competitors are actually doing a crappy job in this field. So that's the possibility of doing something good, not perfect, but just good, is actually huge. That's another thing, like probably the most interesting thing that happened in the software development in the last years is not coming directly from Agile. It's just like the idea of coming from the startup world, no, in the core area, everything is an experiment and it has to be validated. So the learning is part of the process. The learning becomes the process, and this thing is actually way more powerful. Totally different thing. It's just like I was pointing fingers to some roles, product owners, project managers, and so on. But I guess the thing that is interesting is trying to understand that these people are trying to do a good job, but trying to, and even for us, like reinventing the wheel and so on, we got to understand that we are doing those things for a reason. And so it's not like pointing fingers or blaming. Try to understand why people are doing something that looks incredibly stupid with the best possible intention. And because we won't change easily. The forces on us are exactly the same. And yes, learning is going to happen anyway. It might be technology that is not needed. It might be, yeah, something else, but we can't really stop that. That's in our mindset. That is in our DNA. And that's the final thing. It was funny to realize that during the days I was working to this presentation, there was also a good Twitter flow from Tim Ottinger, and he was basically saying like, if we are deprived of purpose, then we start focusing on mastery, but becomes mastery without actually any direction. We try to be like the best developer in the team, but we don't know what is the purpose of our software. We have not a real problem to solve, so we try to architect something which is good, beautiful, clean, reusable, whatever. Well, reusability has never been a real purpose, or just like a proxy one. But yes, that basically everything I wanted to say. So if you don't have this question, I'm going to be happy to answer everything else.
You presented this from the perspective of the developer, right? But once someone takes this approach, right, and like really would like to be a person who is understanding the business and is working on the purpose for the business, having this kind of developer expertise at the same time, is it really easy? And is there really a big market for people like that? Is business basically buying it, or is it because, from my observations, it's not always easy to sell things like that from to the business? In many ways.
Oh yes, well. I won't use the term sell. I usually use the term convincing, and I use the term convincing in the sentence convincing is waste. I don't convince anybody. I just do whatever I think is right, and if it's working, then I explain why it's been working. And if you have to convince your boss to take a day off and go there and talk with the real users, well, you already lost your battle, because you would just do it, take a day off, go and talk with the users, say like, oh yes, by the way, today I decided to talk with some users, and I discovered this and this and this, and see what happens. And just like in one project, we actually have this limitation of we were forbidden to talk with a real user. And we thought like, this is totally insane. How can you be so stupid? This is valuable feedback. Yeah, we were actually forbidden. So what we did in that scenario was we discovered that there was a mailing list for where all the users were discussing about the topics. We created a fake user, entered in this mailing list. We never really engaged actively, like pretending to be somebody else. That was too much. But at least we had a listening point. We knew what people were saying about our software, and actually it was not bad, so we started feeling safe.
But it's still bottom up, right? It's still something like business is not right, was not embracing it up front, was not understanding that you have to learn the business and go to the users. It was bottom up. Is it like the natural direction?
I would say yes, but depends a lot on where you are. Well, the thing I see on the market, at least in Italy, where I have a little bit more connection, Big corporations are not buying this at all. There is a generation of smaller companies which is just thinking exactly in this way, and they're growing fast. So at a given moment, something is going to happen like, oh, guys, you're out of market. Or the other thing, like there's going to be more market stratified. Like if you don't include space for learning, for doing things in the right way, you will never ever be good in the more critical project. You're gonna hire dozens of developers adding stuff to the code base and then leaving. And then, well, your business is gonna be based on a code base that is really hard to maintain. Then you have to pay people more in order to go there. Well, to tell you something about how bad this thing about the wrong code base could go, we have the definition which is called Fukushima level, which is one company that had a code base so ugly that whenever they were asking developers, could you please go and fix this portion of the code, they resigned. They quit the company. So they went to the second in line. Well, they were trying to pay him more bonuses to touch this one. No, 2 months later, I'm resigning. So they still have the ugly code base, and they got without any senior software developer in the company. They started to learn what was the meaning of technical debt only when they got to this level. And so they have a business, they have a customer, the business is based on this code base, now they have to change it, and they have no idea who to call because nobody wants to work there. It's not, it's happening step by step, and then you realize, oh, how the hell do I solve that? So I'm not expecting this to be taken from large corporation, well, except Google is actually a large corporation thinking more or less in this way. Traditional businesses, yes, sooner or later they're going to realize it, but they're going to realize it only when somebody's going to run fast in front of them and what the hell was that? But talking about mid-sized companies, well, it just takes nothing to make an experiment. I mean, if you are a 20-people company, ask for a day off to do something not exactly following the plan. Why not? I mean, sometimes you don't have all of these rules. Some things are rules, some other are just habits. Well, you take a day off. Well, you, in a large corporate project, well, let's say 200 man days, you clearly are going to lose at least one day waiting for some password authorization from the customer anyway. So yeah, just do something unusual that day. Just put it in the risk bucket, and then just works usually. It's totally unpredictable. I mean, no guaranteed outcome, but why not? Just yes, please.
Okay, so basically you asked the question, optimized for what?
Yep.
And you began with waterfall being optimized for basically nothing good.
Postponing, yeah.
But I think that waterfall is optimized for selling, because if you're a software company and you want others to buy your people, basically, buy your people doing some project, and then you just need some fixed design to follow. And I'm just wondering, do you have any experience with those companies selling projects, trying to work in an agile way other than just selling hours of work? Because if you are selling hours of work, it's way easier to work that way. But if you are selling a fixed project, it's basically impossible to agree with the client on the scope.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to say. Well, to be honest, there's my colleague Jacopo Romei, which is actually writing a book called Extreme Contracts. And the thing is, that space for the negotiation between, there is something that from the inside we know is kind of round and unpredictable. And if most of what you're doing is learning, then my question is, can you estimate learning? Can you estimate? Yes. Well, you can't. You can estimate how much time is needed to read a book, but not the time needed to understanding. And the experience might come from mistakes. So you're trying to frame something unpredictable into a box which is predictable. And the thing is, this process is intrinsically flawed. I mean, this one of the two parties is cheating with the other one. Normally, is the big customer trying to cheat with the software development company. Or you might find another way, another contract that is just helping both sides to grow together, deliver more trust, little releases, and something else. But this is more sophisticated, and some organizations are not going to buy this sophistication because there's always going to be another competitor selling you something more easier to understand. That's the price, that's the delivery date. We know it's a lie, it's not really guaranteed, but it's so easy to be put in a PowerPoint and to win a competition with another possible contractor. And so the game repeats. But one thing which is very important, there is a fundamental flaw in what happens at this level, because the customer wants a no-risk, guaranteed delivery thing at a fixed price. And this is not going to happen. Can happen if you take a huge risk margin, or no, you can't promise that because you can't guarantee that everything is going to go in the right way. One of the things is not the coding that you are delivering, it's the common understanding which is involving the collaboration with the customer. The customer is part of the delivery, and you are promising something which is involving the other side. They can't fool you every time. What if the person you're talking to during the negotiation quits the company the next week? You're left with the specification written by a person quitting the customer, and then you promise the delivery date. Good luck. I don't want to be there, but you can't promise that. But of course, if you promise that, then that is the most beautiful contract for their side. They will always prefer that. Simpler, more easily comparable. You put it on Excel. Okay, this company is asking this money. This company is asking this money with this delivery date. Which one can we choose? But that has nothing to do with the quality of the result, with the ability to deliver, and this is stupid numbers on a whiteboard. It has nothing to do. I mean, I agree with you, but
it works like that, right?
Yeah.
They need Excel sheets. So if business needs Excel sheets with some dates, and we want that, so I can just see that. But
can you switch off the microphone? No. Well, it's just like when a girl is looking at you expecting to say "I love you." That's exactly the same thing. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, but that's exactly what they want you to say. Sorry for the diversion, but. Yes, it is a negotiation. The thing that I'm saying is just this commercial negotiation has nothing to do with the product. The mismatch is so huge. And this might be a really critical thing because, okay, I'm pointing to something more scientific here. There's one thing called the market of lemons. It's actually written by an economist called Akerlof that won the Nobel Prize for this. It's just the market of lemons is describing the scenario where buyers of a given good are not experts, are not able to distinguish between good and bad. So when you can't, when you have two proposals and you can't choose, well, you only choose according to what the thing that you can compare, usually price. So market of lemons is just telling, like, if you see two lemons and this is costing 10 euros and this is costing 5 euros, which one you're gonna buy? They look like the same to me, 5 euros. Problem with the market of lemons, it just usually creates a spiral and everybody's trying to sell cheaper, and so at the end you get crappy stuff. It has been studied for the used car market. You get your used cars, you take the one with the cheapest price because you can distinguish. Then you feel like, oh, the car is broken, and then the next time you're gonna go for the even cheaper one because you know every used car is gonna be horrible. And this is exactly what happens in software development. If you never work with a good development team, I've seen companies that had no idea what the good development team could do. It was just like when they saw what we could do with a single senior developer, well, this guy ended up replacing a team in the first week. Just, okay, do that, remove this server, that's useless, and then we have a three-person team replacing a 20-person team after rolling it up.
And how to convince someone like that this kind of teams exist and it is...
Oh, you can't convince. You can't convince. You just call the guy, give the guy a seat, and then, okay, oh, what the hell is that? Let's remove that. This single guy in that scenario actually saved that company 30,000 euros on his first day. And then we said, like, okay, that's your first, what are you going to do tomorrow? And just paid off the investment completely on day one. They never saw anybody like this. And this was actually a really good guy, but was not the only one as good. But in some places are just doomed. They will never, ever see a good developer. They will never even open that door. They will never take an interview with them. Or if they take the interview, they're going to be pissed off by how stupid the question asked in the interview are. And they say, oh, this was not the best fit. No, I was sitting here taking the interview and realizing that this is not the place where I want to work. This looks like a boring one. So the thing is, you will never convince them. You can only show that this is happening. Some people will look at it, some people will be, well, too late to understand it. But waiting, knocking on somebody's door, asking, can we please do something different? No, it's not happening. So start with something small, make a little difference, gain some credibility, traction, have a couple of, well, people helping you, and then, yeah, gain critical mass. But talking back to the problem you were pointing, no, there is a huge friction because comparing things with price, it is easier. Most of the businesses would still do it like that, but it's wrong. This is just guaranteeing that we'll always have crappy software. I know some businesses in Italy are condemned to work in that way. It's written in the law. You have to choose a software provider given the price. And this is just guaranteeing that you're going to end up with the worst software providers at the end. So the only way to escape this is just to deliver something with, oh, that's totally different. That's way better from what I expected. Where were you? Where have you been all of these years? I never imagined that you could actually deliver something like that. But before that, they won't believe you. It's that you can't tell them, oh, there is a magic land where software development is beautiful, where projects arrive on time, and every feature is better than expectation. Well, that's crap. But the problem with the negotiation is actually huge. Just there is complexity. Many managers would not be learning that because they don't think it's their problem. We are perfect in being the enterprise scapegoat, attracting all the blame. Oh yes, the contract was perfect, but the team was late. Well, the contract was actually totally not matching reality, but well, developers were late. You are the last one touching the thing, so you are the guilty one. And but yeah, I don't want to talk for ages on this one. But no, the problem area is totally real, but is at the root is the wrong framing by the buyers. And the only strategy to get out of the problem, one is talking to the right people. If you have a procurement office which is just working on money parameters, no way. They don't care about the value. if you talk with the company, with the right person that cares about the value delivered and not about the price, then maybe you could have a good conversation. But if you're just comparing things based on the money, well, you just factor in your risk, how much you can trust the person, try to discover as much as you can about the customer before getting the project, but then it's traditional risk management. But you know you're working on the second league, I would say.
So, just start with a question and explain later. Why do you think that system or basically system analyst role doesn't provide a solution? Because as you said, basically the most crucial part and the most is learning, right? So basically this role is, in theory, it's exactly responsible for that part, right? To learn the business, experiment with possible solutions, challenge it with some example tables and all the techniques they have to challenge their solution with words. And basically, the desired outcome of that work is exactly a solution that needs to be just implemented, right? And probably all of us had a moment in our work that that we thought of solution of some fine, good problem, and that was great fun. And after we found the solution, we knew how to implement that. The rest was boring, right? Basically, because coding itself is a manual labor, basically, right? But,
well, depends, but yes.
But basically, the most fun part of our work is the learning and finding the solution. But so, if we have for years we have in theory solution for that, then we split the responsibility, right? So we have a desired role expected only to basically experiment, learn, and learn the business and find the solutions.
I just haven't seen working in practice. I just yes, in theory, yes. In practice, well, developers need to make mistakes and discover, oh, that's the right solution by doing something wrong. It's like, or even one of the way I was teaching domain-driven design to a team I was coaching was not, oh, so we're gonna follow the blue book. No, forget the blue book. You just try to write stuff, and then when you have a problems, we try to correct it. And so I basically let them smash their head against the wall continuously, and then, okay, what is your problem? Oh, we have this thing happening. Oh, try to extract this, put this logic over there, and this, and by the way, we have the, oh, that is called the repository pattern. And the thing is, those guys ended up being really experts without being zealots. They were not following the rules. They knew that if I do that, bad things are going to happen. If I do that, I'm in a safe area instead. But they knew exactly what were the bad things going to happen. So they always had two alternatives, not only one. The thing is, if you do that, you're not creating experts. You're creating people that implement the specification. You need mistakes. You need to know what happened if you take the wrong alternative in order to become an expert. Because sometimes it's a bad thing, but sometimes it's an acceptable risk. Or sometimes that's the only alternative you have because the mainstream is blocked and you have to do that, but you need to be careful for that and that and that.
Yeah, in that way you can basically split the experts on the business and domain level and from the technical experts, right?
Yep.
So basically, in theory, if you have an ideal scenario business analytic, you don't need the developers to learn the business. They just need to be technical, right? And they need to experiment as well, but only on technical level.
I'm not really sure about that. Like I'm really feeling that the moment you start to understand the business, of course you're not going to be exactly an expert, but you're starting to play with the system and see how the system is changing once you find that, well, that's leverage here and that's something here. What happens if we do that? Oh, this thing is happening. What happens if I do this and that? You started to be in control, not exactly in control, but at least you have an influence over the system. well, the mindset of the people changes dramatically. It's just like you're not just following the rules. You might be driving something, and you might get into this, what if you do that instead? I saw you doing this and this, which is actually the same thing. What if we just do that thing instead? And then you get, this is exactly where you want to be, because developers are problem solvers, which are not exposed to the real problem. And we discussed this in these days, like there are some parts of the problem which are boring, money, accounting, and so on. So don't expose developers to accounting. But some other portion of the system, you get to the moment where, why don't we do that instead? Because we are solving problems every day, tricky. Like, have you seen lawyers sharing a document? I mean, it's one of the most embarrassing things. They are managing stuff which is worth millions, and they have no idea of document versioning. It's damn Git, is that thing, but it's very, very hard to make these people with this mindset understand that you have version and patches and so on. Lawmakers, actually, a law, even a constitution, is a bunch of source code. We already solved this problem. We have solution, established patterns, refactoring, and then in another domain, oh, what do you do when you share a document? Oh, sorry, the law went in practice, it was the wrong version of the document. Oh, horrible. We are working on such a complex environment. We already have some pattern for solving some areas. And if you are out of the discussion, this potential help to give a solution is gone. I don't want to be shielded from the real problem. I mean, not every developer wants to be part of every discussion, but being artificially shielded, no, doesn't feel like a great idea. And I can't guarantee any positive contribution, but I can guarantee that if you're not involving them in the real problem, you won't have any real solution proposal. It's just like, yeah, being in a bubble space, not really working. So not every developer is going to be curious about the domain, but what's the point in not exposing to the real complexity? Assuming that your business is legal, assuming that you're not doing extra stuff. Like, I don't see any harm in learning. It's in the worst case, it's just you learn more.
Okay, one more. About event storming, so you presented it as a technique to just get business and developers closer, potentially. Do you think, what's your experience? Is it recommended more to do one big, huge session of event storming and just like get most amount of knowledge possible, and which could take a few days or something like that, or more like put it as a part of iterative process and repeat it several times, or maybe repeat it from time to time?
That's relatively quick. Both. We have two main formats. Actually, the formats are a little more, but big picture event storming is a large one with all the business representatives and happen usually at project kickoff. That's where you want to have massive learning and risk discovery. Then we have smaller versions that have more or less the scope of a single feature or a group of features, and they happen at the beginning of the iteration. And in this case, you only talk with few selected experts, the people involved in the specific features, and you're trying to model a system. In the first one, you just have a massive discovery, and actually you put the business representative in a cage without calling it like that. That's kind of like behavioral experiment of collaborative discovery. You want to see who is going to be the troublemaker in your project, mostly. Try to understand all of the quirks of the system and human behavior. This guy hates this guy. I want to see that.
How do you make people to show it?
Oh, well, can we switch it off again? Well, One corner case, just we make the invitation and one person told me, if this person is in the room, I won't be at the meeting. Okay, kind of easy. In another one, I had a co-facilitator and he was actually, have you realized that for the whole workshop, this person and this person never exchanged a single word? Even when they were side by side, they were actually ignoring each other. Do you think that your software is going to make them friends again? But that is not going to happen. And you want to be aware of this risk. One of these guys, in an enterprise scenario, one of these guys would probably try to sabotage the project. One might be happy if the other guy's project is going to fail. Do you really want to be in that battle? Corporate fight between end-of-year bonuses which have nothing to do with you? Well, no. But I want to understand that I'm going to be used in this type of battle and from the very first moment.
And when you do the big one at the beginning, do you keep the results, or do you just restart it every time?
Well, it goes like this. I take the paper roll around for a couple of days because the workshop is for extroverted people. They do a lot of stuff, they talk a lot, but I want to keep it around because you finish the workshop and then somebody showing up. You know, yesterday we talked about this thing. I think we forgot to mention this little. So you want to have this second day reaction. And take it around for a couple of days, then you fold it. You take the pictures, of course, and then you fold it like a papyrus, conserving it and making sure that you're storing it. Then, of course, you're never going to use it again, but you just want to make sure that everybody doesn't feel insulted for this one. The thing is, you will remember that anyway. You will remember where events are in the flow, the shape of the flow and everything. You cannot unlearn this. The learning experience is usually so immersive that you can't actually forget it. But using it as a reference, no, because tomorrow you're going to be a lot wiser than that. If you do it again the next day, it's going to be better. More precise wording, more order structure, and so that's it. You just fold it, make everybody feel safe. It is there, but you never actually open it again. But if needed, okay, you just can recreate it quickly, no problem. But don't use it as a reference. It is old. It's just a snapshot of your learning at the first day of the project. After a couple of weeks, you're a lot more expert than you used to be. So yeah, you just recreate the smaller part which is needed. And then you might have moments where, well, new management, new project, new team, you just start over. But no big rules. I guess it's end of the session. I don't want to ask for any more. So thank you very much for being here. And then this is the last thing. If you're interested in some of the thinking behind that, this is all of this is actually great stuff. And instead, if you're interested in event storming, that's the best entry point, eventstorming.com, and contains all of these other links for, Event Stormers community. That's a place where we discuss all this stuff. So yeah, thank you again.